Please forgive my ignorance, but if you can explain, what does a public facilities authority for the city of South Fulton actually do?
I will, yes, I'm glad to do that. I will yield to City Manager Sharon Subadan to help me, but it will allow the city to utilize debt and others. It's almost like a tool in our toolbox for us to build the cities or build the buildings that we need within our city, build a city hall and other things. So, Ms. Subadan, please. Thank you.
Sure. At the beginning of the legislative session, I explained that in order for us to be able to leverage debt citywide, not unlike the URA, but the Public Facilities Authority is a tool that would allow us to leverage debt citywide for the purposes of building our police headquarters, our fire training facility, and ultimately a city hall. And our financial advisor and our bond attorney recommended that we get this tool, which most all small cities, most all cities, new cities, have this tool in their toolbox. So we pursued it, and it has been approved. The city council will actually serve, or portions of the city council will actually serve on the PFA as the PFA board, and it will be stood up as needed, and whenever we have a need to leverage debt. Does that help?
Yep, thank you. I yield.
The chair recognizes District 4 Councilman Sebastian.
I understand. Up here, I'm the only mayor here. Okay? And I know sometimes people don't want me to speak. Honestly, that's why I don't speak too often. But I think it's disgusting. I think it's disgusting. Let me start again. I understand I'm the only male up here. And sometimes people don't want me to speak. I think it's actually disgusting for me to have spoken on the item before, for as short as I did, and for this body to not allow me to speak before. I have one of the districts with a lot of large homes. What I was going to say before, there was one home that's being built in District 4, entirely of steel. And I've got so many calls about it. It's a gas station, this, that, and the other. But it's about educating our citizens, and I'm coming to you. But I wanted to get that out, because I'm sure you guys up here know I'm not afraid of a fight when I have to, and I'm not afraid to fight alone. Because what I'm going to bring to that fight is the people from across this city and from District 4. Now, having said that, Mr. Andrew, thank you very much for fighting for us this past session.
Yes, sir.
We know it was not an easy task. Many of us came downtown. You did a good job, as was stated, to make sure we spoke to the right people. And it was about educating not only our citizens, but even the legislators downtown who did not know that this was happening, all right? And I know that because I spoke to many of them. A lot of people got stuff from my newsletter and from Councilmember Willis's newsletter to really highlight this issue that was happening to our city. It was not the easiest thing. And quite frankly, I went to bed that night about 11:30, and I went to bed saying, the fight will have to now go to the street, which I was really prepared to do as well. But I was happy that you guys were able to be successful in getting that bill defeated. And we as a city, we have to be prepared for the next step, because a lot of things were said during this process, including how difficult it is to do business with the city, which is really weird, because we're a 70-year-old city. And I've had feedback from developers that said they've had the best experience in doing hundreds of processes across this country, not only in this city, and how the experience here was so good. So I want to make sure all the lies and everything out there that we still have a job to do to dispel those things and to protect this city. Because the day that this city was formed, it really put a wrench in a lot of people's space. And we have to remember that every time we sit up here, when we go into our communities and with every decision we make, that all of those decisions are being made with the eyes of the world watching us. And not everyone is rooting for us. Okay? So, with that said, I'll finish this by saying to you, Mr. Mayor, since I've been on this council, I have been the only council member that this board have had to vote for 5 times to allow me to speak. And I'm asking you now, cut it out. I'm not asking you to break the rules. Not asking you to break the rules. And I'm saying, please make today be the last day. Okay? Please. Because we don't want this. We don't want this. Thank you.
The chair recognizes District 3, Councilman Willis.
Thank you. Mr. Long, I want to thank you for all your efforts and advocacy on behalf of this city and the residents. I don't want us to dismiss the power of our residents. As my colleague stated, he and I were the only two that put out information to educate residents about what was happening around House Bill 905. The numerous calls, the emails, and the advocacy from this community to the state legislators were unreal. So I'm not going to discount that in any way. There's no I in team. This was a team effort. You, other mayors, I talked to 3 other mayors from other cities, Mayor Owings, the mayor of Stonecrest, the mayor of Union City. There were several people who did not like the precedents that this bill would have set for the entire state of Georgia. But most of all, we had the residents, we had the state legislators, we had other municipalities, but we are forgetting the highest power in this, and that's God. Because when that bill went to the floor, it was the act, I believe, of God that changed the direction and the trajectory of where that bill was going. Because you were told, I was told that this bill was going to pass and they could care less what everybody else had to say. Because it was all about power and money, and the person who was leading this bill didn't even live in this area. He was a state legislator out of Macon, Georgia, and who was powerful on the GOP side. So this will not be the last time something like this happens. And you and I and Ms. Subadan were told by several individuals that why this happened. And we will continue to work on some of those things that came out. My question to you is, as of December 31st, January 1, 2025, we will be in a new congressional district. And as you know, GDOT representatives are appointed based on congressional representatives. So right now, we have a GDOT representative that represents Congressional 13.
Yes.
We will be in Congressional 13 until January 1 of 2025.
That's correct.
I have asked this question multiple times, and if you don't have the answer, could you please research it? Because this is very important to South Fulton and the needs as it relates to Georgia transportation Georgia Department of Transportation, are they going to redo the, are they going to redistrict the GDOT board based on what happened with the new maps? Are we going to have to inherit the current GDOT representative, congressional representative for 6? Because when I went and looked at the board makeup, that particular representative that's currently sitting in congressional 6 has 2 more years on their term, and they don't currently have a history with South Fulton. Most of their area is in Cobb County. It's not South Fulton.
Is that Jeff?
Yes.
Yes. I will have to research that and get you a correct answer. What I do know is that we're not going to move from Congressional District 13 to Congressional District 6 and still be represented by someone in Congressional District 13. We will have a member of the Georgia Transportation Board from Congressional District 6. Yes, ma'am. So now, are they going to vote, or are they going to have a new election for Congressional District 6 because it's a new congressional district, or are they just going to put the title 6 on who is currently 13? I do not know. I can get you an answer to that question.
Okay, can you please, because that is very important. If that does happen, can you? We would need a meeting early on with that Congressional District 6 person, because that person is not familiar with South Fulton at all.
That's correct. Thank you. I will do it.
All right, thank you.
You're welcome.
You're done? Okay. Thank you, Mr. Long. I think that it is apparent to everyone in the city of South Fulton and beyond that we have a council full of fighters. But y'all, I am tired of fighting. I'm tired. I'm tired of fighting my own people. I have 630 days, 6 hours, and 1 minute left in this office. And with that time, I just want to move forward. So with that, Councilman Willis asked the question that I had. I will say that there are new maps for State House, State Senate, and Congress. At least one of your representatives will be different than anyone that you've had before. So the maps are in the lobby. We are going to work to make sure that the maps are available for everyone to see. If you text Fulton to 33777, we'll make sure to try and get them out to you. Special thanks to the reapportionment office and the printers who helped us put those maps together. If you're looking at the maps, the shaded area is the city of South Fulton, that crazy blob, that's our city. And then the black lines represent all of the districts. So you should be able to find your street and find out your State House, State Senate, and Congressional District number. All of the city of South Fulton is now in Congressional District 6. But for those other folks, definitely find out who those people are. Early voting is going to be starting in about 2 weeks. There are forums that are happening all across the city right now. And I am happy to say Mr. Long has brought to our attention that because of our size, the city of South Fulton, which is the 5th largest city in the state, will have the 2nd largest state house delegation in all of Georgia. The only people with more state house or state senate representatives representing them is the city of Atlanta. I think we have, is it 14, 21
I think it's 12 in the House and 4 now in the Senate.
12, all right, so 16. I would encourage council for us to look at meeting, though they will not be sworn in, whoever those people are. We're not even sure. Half of the people will be brand new. We're not sure who they are, but as soon as we know, I would like for us to begin meeting with them and build our legislative agenda for 2025, not just for GDOT, but for all things, and really work together to make the best use of this large delegation. I think that we've been punching below our weight for the past 7 years, and so I'm hoping to see that change in the future. So thank you again. It is 8 o'clock. We are now at our work.
6 o'clock.
I'm sorry, 6 o'clock. 6 o'clock. We're now it's 6 o'clock. We're now at our work, at our zoning hearing. We have 17 cases on the hearing, but we still have an item for the work session. So I have been asked if we could hold that item. I'm going to poll the council for that. Madam Subadan, I'll let you just speak publicly to the council about your idea about holding the item.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yes, given the time, and it is a lengthy item that does require some explanation, I've spoken to the Economic Development Director. He does not think it would be detrimental if we pushed it to the next work session, which would allow us to start our zoning public hearings so close to being on time, if it's the will of the council.
All right, I will entertain a motion to table this item till the April 23rd.
I move to table this item, the presentation from Economic Development, until the next work session.
Second.
It's been properly moved and seconded. I'll take that vote by a show of hands.
Record that motion approved unanimously.
Oh, I'm sorry. There was discussion. The chair recognizes Councilwoman Willis.
Can we use this time that we have until the next work session, Mrs. Subadan? Can we have some discussions around this?
Absolutely.
All right, thank you.
All right, I'm sorry. I will take that vote now by a show of hands.
Record that motion. I'm sorry. Okay, yes, I record that motion approved unanimously. 7-0. That's correct.
All right, I will entertain a motion to adjourn the work session.
I move to adjourn the work session.
Second.
It's been properly moved and seconded. I'll take that vote by a show of hands.
Discussion.
I'm sorry, discussion. The chair recognizes Councilwoman.
Could we have a 5-minute break, please?
Sure.
To adjourn?
Well, we're going to adjourn, and then
Then you
I'll
can
take a break before we
Okay, thank you.
reconvene. All right, I'll entertain this take this vote to adjourn.
Record that motion approved 6-0. We're adjourned at 6:04 p.m. Thank
All
you.
right, I'm going to give you 6 minutes. We'll reconvene at 6:10. Are we ready yet, Mr. Hammonds? All right. It is 6:14 on my clock, so we got 10 minutes instead of 6. I'm going to go ahead and call this zoning hearing to order. Mr. Clerk, would you please call the roll?
Good evening, Mr. Mayor and members of council. This is a roll call for the alcohol zoning public hearing scheduled for April 9th at 6 p.m. The Honorable Catherine F. Rao, District 1.
Present.
The Honorable Carmelita Gums, District 2.
Present.
The Honorable Helen Z. Willis, District 3.
Present.
The Honorable J.C. Sebastian, District 4.
Present.
The Honorable Keosha B. Bell, District 5. The Honorable Natasha Williams Brown, District 6. The Honorable Linda B. Pritchett, District 7.
Here.
And the Honorable Mayor Khalid.
Present. Mr.
Mayor, you do have a quorum.
All right. I understand that we have several deferrals. Mr. McClendon, do we want to go ahead and dispose of those so anyone who might be here for those cases can be released?
Yes, Mr. Chair, Mr. Mayor, the items 1, 2, if we just want to list them out on the agenda, items 1, 2, 3, 4, and 16, we're asking for deferral until May the 9th.
Can I make a motion?
All right, I'll entertain a motion to defer items 1, 2, 3, 4, and 16 to...
May I have a question?
Okay, we'll have discussion. I'll entertain a motion to defer items 1, 2, 3, 4, and 16 till May 9th.
Second.
I move that we defer the cases as sounded.
All right, it has been moved and seconded, not quite properly, but moved.
Discussion.
We now have discussion. The chair recognizes District 4 Councilman Sebastian.
Mr. McClendon, I just want to get some clarification about item 16. Has that been deferred? Did you mention that? I'm sorry.
Yes,
Item 16 is also deferred?
that's correct.
Thank you. Just want to make sure.
The chair recognizes District 3 Councilwoman Willis.
What are we deferring? Can we repeat those numbers again?
1, 2.
It's item 1, case Z23018. Item 2, case Z24002. Item 3, case Z24006. Item 4, case Z23017. And item 16, case M24002.
I thought it was supposed to be 6 as well.
6 is going to be deferred to a different date.
Oh,
Are we clear? All right, do you want to announce your next set of deferrals?
I think you all have to vote.
You got to carry the vote.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'll enter by show of hands.
Record that motion approved unanimously to defer items 1, 2, 3, 4, and 16 till May 9th.
All right, you have another set, sir.
I do case number 6, which is item Z23-020, is asking to be deferred to the April 23rd public hearing.
Item 6.
I move to defer case Z23-020 till April 23rd, 2024.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Any discussion? All right, we'll take that vote by show of hands.
Record that motion approved unanimously.
All right.
All right, and then case number 5 on the agenda is case U24003. The applicant requests a withdrawal.
All right, the chair will entertain a motion.
I move to accept case U24-003 for withdrawal.
Second.
All right, it's been properly moved and seconded. Any discussion? Seeing and hearing none, I'll entertain that vote by show of hands.
I record that motion approved unanimously.
All right. You all have been following along on your bingo cards. We are at item number 7, I believe, Mr. Clerk.
Correct.
Correct?
All right.
Item number 7 is case Z23-016, application by Jonathan Wee, care of Battle Law PC, is requesting to rezone property from C1 zoning district to TR zoning district to develop 88 townhome units on 11.23 acres of land and a future land use designation amendment, regional live work to suburban neighborhood 2. This is located in District 7. Staff recommendation is no recommendation, and Planning Commission's recommendation is denial.
All right, thank you, Mr. Clerk. Once again, this is case Z23-016. This is a recommendation to, or this is a application to build 88 townhomes on 11.23 acres of land in Council District 7. The future land use designation, the applicant also seeks a future land use designation amendment from regional live work to suburban neighborhood 2. Staff forwarded this case without a recommendation, and Planning Commission recommended denial.
All right, I'm going to go ahead and open up the public hearing. Is an applicant or a representative for the applicant here? All right, you can come forward. When I tell you you're going to state your name, you will have, the clerk is going to turn the clock to you so you can see it. You will have 10 minutes. That 10 minutes is for you and anyone who wants to speak in support of the item. You may want to reserve some balance of your time for rebuttal. Your clock starts now.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. I hope you're all doing well. My name is Josh Mahoney, and I'm an attorney at Battle Law PC, which is located at 3562 Habersham North Lake in Tucker, Georgia. I'm here this evening speaking on behalf of the applicant pursuant to its application for rezoning and future land use amendment from C1 to TR and from regional live work to suburban 2. I did send in a short presentation that I'd like to share with you all. Is there any way that we can get it up on the screen?
Yeah, Mr. Honey, actually, it is not coming up on the screen. We did receive that, but unfortunately, it's not appearing at this time. You don't have a jump drive or anything, do you?
Not right now, but that's okay. I can go through my
I'll still work on
points,
it, though.
and I'll send it out to you afterwards.
Mr. Adams.
So, Mayor and Council, this property is located at the southern end of Old National Highway, just north of Tri-County Station Shopping Center, and near the intersection of Old National Highway and Jonesboro Road. What we're proposing is to rezone that property from C1 for commercial uses to TR to allow for the 88 for-sale townhome units priced between $300,000 and $350,000. Approving this application will, in effect, create a mixed-use node at that intersection by providing this medium-density residential, which is currently not there, and connecting into the existing commercial uses, especially those in the Tri-County Station, by adding in some sidewalks so that folks moving into this new community can walk to the Tri-County Station Shopping Center and support those businesses further. So if I had the zoning map, you would see that in the area, there's a couple of properties around that are zoned C1 already, the subject property being one of them. C1 allows for a variety of commercial uses, but despite that, the subject property has never been developed for commercial, even though the owners have been consistently advertising the property to potential developers and builders for commercial. The property has sat vacant, though. Additionally, the surrounding commercial properties have not been doing well. They've been struggling a little bit, with several of them leaving, and several of them just also never having been developed or built out.
If you just, we're going to pause the clock. You give me 1 second. I'm going to bring this up on the screen.
Thank you.
Maybe. PowerPoint on the, yeah. Keep going.
Okay.
I need our IT department. It's an IT thing. I'm sorry, go ahead.
Sure. So the exception to that rule about the undeveloped commercial properties is, of course, the Tri-County Station Shopping Center. But even within that shopping center, you've had some businesses that have had to leave, but you do have some that are still there. And so what we hope to do is that by bringing about this rezoning, we will put in some density, some more housing there to support the businesses that are currently there in the Tri-County Station, as well as attract new businesses to the area by bringing in some folks who can afford to purchase these homes, who have some money to spend, and so that new businesses will see that and come occupy those spaces. So on this point, I do want to point out that last week we did have a community meeting at the 50-yard line Bar and Grill, which is in the Tri-County Station, a shopping center, and immediately south of the subject property. At that time, we heard from residents of the Providence Glen neighborhood as well as the Lake Royale neighborhood, and they told us that they do not want to live next to a commercial development. And with the zoning as it is today, that's the only option. So if we rezone the property, we can avoid that issue altogether. Now, the future land use for this property is regional live work. Regional live work allows for up to 20 dwelling units per acre. Some of the properties around the area, around this property, have a suburban 2 future land use designation, which allows for up to 8 units per acre. What we're proposing is just shy, or just south of 8 units per acre. So our proposal fits in much better with the surrounding neighborhood under the suburban 2 future land use as opposed to the regional live work future land use. Additionally, if we're seeking the TR zoning district, we have to seek the suburban 2 future land use, which is why we submitted that future land use amendment application. Interestingly, there's actually a LCI study that applies specifically to the property that we're discussing this evening. The LCI study proposes actually multifamily housing on the subject property, specifically apartments, and at a density up to 20 dwelling units per acre. While we understand that that's what the LCI study was looking for, we feel that we have met the goal of the study by bringing housing to create that mixed use node I mentioned at the top of my presentation, but we did it in a way that fosters home ownership in the city. By offering our townhomes for sale, folks can move in, they can set down roots in the city and really stick around so that they can support the businesses in the Tri-County Station node. Again, at the community meeting last week, we heard from the 2 neighboring neighborhoods, and we heard from them that they do not want to live next to rental units, which is why our plan, our proposal, is a much better idea than what's in the LCI because it meets the goals of the LCI and avoids the issue of existing community members having to live next to rental. Another thing that this proposal does is it kind of implements a very common planning theme that you see around the metro area in the country, where you have high-intensity commercial townhomes and then single-family detached homes. The townhomes serve as a transition from the high-intensity uses to the single-family detached uses, rather than having single-family detached right up against commercial. As we heard from the community last week, they don't want commercial right next to their homes, and so there's no reason to put more single-family detached homes on this property because they would be right up against the commercial development, and we wouldn't be solving the problem. But putting in medium-density residential, like these townhomes, does solve that problem by putting in the transition.
green here, I think you can see your
Oh,
slides
great.
up. Yeah.
So I've made it all the way down to slide 9.
And we won't be voting on this tonight, but this is just information for those who are watching at home and here in person. All these slides will be available on our website.
And I apologize, I think I'm actually on slide 10.
Okay.
Thank you. So what you're seeing here on slide 10 is a number of other townhome developments along Old National Highway in the city. You see a number of them are weighted toward the north end of Old National Highway, where ours is positioned to the south end. What we're looking to do is continue the trend of new townhome developments coming to the city along this corridor, but bring support for the businesses, again, on the southern side of Old National Highway, where right now they're not getting a lot of new development. I'll move quickly through the last couple slides here. You can see that we are proposing some high-end materials here. We're trying to bring a nice mixture of materials, including brick, hardy plank, a mixture of color palettes, things like that, to bring a high-quality feel to these townhomes. We carry that through on the next slide. We carry that trend through into the interiors. We are proposing attractive finishes here in the interiors as well. And then what I'd like to do is skip to the, oh no, I've got plenty of time. So here we've got a little bit of a market study that my client performed on this property. What we're looking at here is the price per square foot of several homes in the area and what our townhomes will hit on that scale. Basically what it comes down to is our price per square foot is going to be about 53.8% higher than the homes that are surrounding us. So what that means is we'll be setting a high bar for new townhome developments in the city by reaching that standard. But at the same time, we won't be affecting the existing single-family detached homes, because I learned recently when it comes to appraisals, appraisers do not consider townhomes when they're considering single-family detached and vice versa. They compare like kind to like kind. And so what we'd be doing is setting a high bar for townhome developments moving forward in the city, but not increasing property taxes or anything like that on the existing single-family detached homes. Now, the last couple slides will cover our community engagement. This has been a journey, no doubt. We started this application late last year, and we have had several community meetings, starting with the CZIM meeting required by the city on October 2nd. There were several people in attendance. However, we did not hear any comments at that time. We hosted a community meeting ourselves, November 9th. And we sent out 1,977 notices for that meeting. Unfortunately, no one came to the meeting. Moving on to our second community meeting, we tried a different approach. We posted some signs along the road frontages for several of the neighborhoods out there. It worked a little bit better, and we only got 3 members who joined us, and they asked us about traffic. Going to the Planning Commission hearing on March 20th of this year, we had a better turnout. We had folks there who were asking some questions. On the slide here, you can see some of the questions that were asked and our response. And then on the next slide, we had our final community meeting just last week. I mentioned it to you already on April 4th. At that meeting, I want to say we sent out 1,700 additional notices. We held it locally at 50-yard line bar and grill. We had a really good turnout of about 30 plus people. We had lots of questions. We gave them all sorts of answers that you could see here. This summarizes what we had. The discussion focused around that transition, what would be next to those neighborhoods, as opposed to the commercial, what we could bring, amenities and things like that. But with that is all I have for you all this evening. I will reserve my time for rebuttal in case it's needed, and I'm here to answer any questions.
All right. You have some time left on the clock. We'll figure that out. So are there any speakers in opposition?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, we received 2 cards for speakers in opposition, Mr. Michael Venable as well as Alvin Reynolds.
All right, if you will come forward, please state your name. You will have 10 minutes. It's for everyone, so be cognizant of your fellow speakers.
It's Michael Venable, 5720 Montelli Circle. Unfortunately, it's a little late for us to be playing kindergarten. This proposal is a direct, blatant, and distinct violation of the land use policy. We are attempting to let a private owner manipulate municipal policy without government direction, without any land use analysis, and without public input. The whole concept of doing a comprehensive land use plan is to get everybody on board and strategically do that. If we're going to come back and make a land use plan just by letting every applicant come in here and say, okay, I want to change this designation and want to change this future land use plan, it's ridiculous for us to be even thinking about it and talking about it. Remember the budget discussion? We talked about getting property tax burden off of the residents. That was badgered. How in the world are you going to take highway frontage property, zone commercial, and deflate that to a residential development? You put your commercials and office right on the corridor. Your residential is within the back areas of the subdivision. It is close to a node of 2 state highways. Realistically looking at this is classic spot zoning. There is nothing in that area that even comes close to you taking a certain area in the middle of that and turning that into a townhome development. This is way over the density of anything around that. Now, don't go pull Providence, because that was developed for senior living and that had different regulations. You go across the street to West Road, you go behind that. These are like 3, 4, 5 units per acre. This proposal is almost double that. Let's come back into present day reality. This is not an upgrade. You know, I went to the store and years ago, looked around and was finally shocked. Oh, we don't have CDs anymore. Got rid of that. $300,000 to $350,000 is now a starter home. Don't talk about something being an upgrade. It is what it is. Look at what he's offering. There's not a single amenity in that complex. No clubhouse. You don't have any tennis. You don't have any outdoor paddleball. You've got these passive things. Oh, we got a park. Oh, you got to pay for somebody in it to come back and mow the grass. You know what that turns into? Something that has plagued this old national corridor forever. The problems that we have now with Camelot will be existing in this same property once you move forward. You know, we always had this motto about place you want to be. No, we've set this up to where you trying to make it to where there's nowhere else to go and you bring them in. You go half a mile down the street and it's the next county. These are like $800,000-$900,000 homes. That is a disservice to the surrounding community. The same way it was when they put warehouses beside the subdivisions in other cities and stuck them right beside ours. Councilwoman Willis, she saw it in there when they put the Coca-Cola warehouse beside her subdivision. This is just wrong. You need to have respect for everybody around that, not just looking for some private development to where, oh, I need to make some money and do this. it is improper for us to squander this valuable property, zone commercial, at a two-state highway node to put in starter homes. That does not help my tax base. Just because this one person was not savvy enough or was not able to get an applicant or a vendor to come in and put some commercial property there doesn't mean that it's useless. I urge you to vehemently reject this proposal. This is not a comprehensive plan meeting. This is a zoning. You are not complying with the zoning.
Good evening, Alvin Reynolds, 585 Kings Place, Riverdale, Georgia. 30296, reside in District 7. Actually reside right behind this proposed development. My colleague spoke highly as to some of the issues that are concerning about this development. One being the comprehensive land use plan does not support it. And to change it in this manner is definitely not what we're trying to do. We shouldn't be thinking about changing it in this manner through zoning, because I'm pretty sure that council has had some conversations about the comprehensive plan rewrite. Public haven't heard, but I'm sure you guys have had that conversation. It's oftentimes spoke of density. Density, density, density. How much density do we need? We've given you density. We've given you more density. Right now, down Beda Road, there's a proposed project that's coming there, which was changed from R3 to R5 against the community's consent, but yet and still it passed. They're going to build, I think, about 120 homes back there. More density. If you continue to take the space and build residential, you're not relieving the home base of a tax burden, but you're not even leaving room to bring any commercial base in there. Let's go back and look at something here that I don't think a lot of people want to talk about. The real reason that the concern is about this particular development is history has shown us that these developments don't work, not in that area. Down Beda Road, there was a townhome, I think they called Summer Tree. We had to tear it down. We understand Camelot, which is on everybody's mind and radar, not just in the city of South Fulton, but far beyond. Look at what's happening there, townhomes. This is a very concern of the people that lives in this area as to what this property will end up being. Not just looking 1 year down the line, but we're looking ahead 5 years down the line. That Tri-County Plaza definitely needs some revitalizing, definitely needs upgrading, but yet and still we want to bring in more density. The fact that it doesn't support the future land use plan, that should be enough in itself. Yes, we need housing. Yes, we need affordable housing, but we need it where it makes sense. And it's sad that we don't have a lot of the community standing here with me and Mr. Venable, because we've had conversations with many of them who has stated that they were against these types of proposals. But for whatever reason, they don't show up. But they asked us, are we coming? The thing about it is, I have to show up because it's my duty, my concern for my community in the manner in which we're going. We should be going forward, not backwards. And I believe that this type of development is actually taking us backwards and keeping us where we are. And we all know the state of that area and where we are. We're not naive. We're not fooling ourselves. We cannot continue to bring the same thing into an area that's going to rear the same results. Comprehensive land use plan says no. Traffic is another one. You're talking about 88 homes, multiply that by 4. You're only going in and out off Old National, and Old National, we all know the traffic problems on Old National. One of my colleagues had just lost his life on Old National. This is not a development that we want in this area, and we ask that you please deny this. Thank you.
All right, the applicant, you do have 1 minute and 45 seconds for rebuttal, and you probably want to stay up here for questions from council afterwards.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. I'll be brief. I heard some concerns that this rezoning is in violation of the land use policy. However, there is no legislation whatsoever in your code that requires you to do a land use change prior to doing a rezoning. In fact, Z22-011 is a rezoning case that you approved without doing a future land use amendment. I heard some concern about density. I find this interesting. The current land use allows for 20 dwelling units per acre. We are changing it to max out at 8. The LCI and the comp plan call for apartments. We're bringing for sale units. I'm not familiar with the Camelot subdivision, if that's a rental condominium. Okay, well, we're looking to do a high-end product that's going to be owner-occupied with an HOA that will be required. It will always be there. It will never fall apart. It will never dissolve. It will maintain the property in perpetuity. And I will stop there and take any questions you have.
All right, I'm going to go ahead and close the public hearing and open it up for questions. As always, we will begin with the district representative, Councilwoman Pritchett.
Thank you again for acknowledging me. I would like to say that since I have been serving on this council and attending or participating in these zoning, these zoning hearings, people do have the right to express their opinions. But I want to be very clear so people understand this. Opinions are opinions. You have one, I have one, but then there are facts, and then there is relevant information based on facts. I heard it stated earlier that the community has, this is not what the community wants. I know that I speak for the community that I serve, because I speak to lots and lots and lots of people that I represent. I represent approximately 15,000 people. I know that initially there were one or two meetings where that they were, the residents were notified. The first meeting, no one showed up. The second meeting, 3 people showed up. So they looked at different ways to get that community engagement. And it went on social media and engaged more people, and the people actually came. Councilman Bell actually showed up, people from her community, people from Councilwoman Williams Brown's community showed up. People, and most of them were seniors. People from Providence Glen, people from Stone Ridge, my former community, they were there. There were lots of people there. And one thing that I know I did not see on that evening is one of the speakers was there and did not say any of this that they're saying here tonight. Now, I'm not saying that anyone does not have the right to express their opinion, but there is also a thing that is called posturing for an audience. And I'm kind of tired of it because it's disingenuous. And sometimes opinions are conveyed as if they're facts. I believe that this community has waited to see what commercial product will come out of that land. from the beginning of time to this moment that we're in here right now, that lot stays empty. I have seen that lot dumped on. I have heard from the residents in Providence Glen say that it was used as a cut through. I have heard people say that criminal activity has engaged there. And there's an opportunity for something to be done with this land. And the community asked their questions. They asked the tough questions. And they were very engaged and very involved. We were there for about 4 hours. So I just would like to say that we heard from our lobbyist that spoke about a bill, House Bill 905, that would have affected us in our boundaries, our commercial parcels. And one thing that has been said is that there are times that people say that we appear as a city to not be friendly towards development. And development is the only way that you're going to grow a city, to develop the city. So I would like for us to keep an open mind as to the presentation of facts, the information that's provided when a community does weigh in. The community may have not showed up today for this, but they showed up at that meeting, and it was a lot of people. So as Councilwoman Willis listens to her community, I listen to mine. And, you know, I just want to bear in mind that we need to look at facts. And these zoning hearings and the opportunity to rezone land to uses that may be more suitable or make sense. That's why it's not cookie cutter and set in stone, and that mayor and council has these things coming before us. This is not the only case coming before us to rezone based on whatever is being presented that may be more suitable for the current zoning. This is what we do. This is not a violation of anything, considering a different zoning designation. And with that, I yield.
All right, the chair recognizes Councilwoman Williams-Brown.
Thank you, Mayor. Prior to Councilwoman Pritchett's election, we embarked upon the Old National LCI, which has been referenced. Subsequent to that, and I'm not sure if it's been made public, there was an LCI report that was generated, which is forming the basis for kind of the next phase of us implementing the LCI, for lack of better phrasing. But in that report that we received on February 13th, it was specifically noted, and this was done in the wake of the brokers tour that we had that was widely reported on the news. The brokers themselves had to rank these sites in terms of desirability for development. And of the 4 sites, the 4 nodes that we have in the city, that we have along Old National for development, the Tri-Cities Plaza was number 3. And the LA Fitness Plaza, which is my district, was number 4. And what was specifically pointed out is that if we want to redevelop the Tri-Cities Plaza, and this is T-Dallas, this is coming from the brokers themselves who have to do the development, get the financing, build the things. What they said was, and I quote, "The city should consider taking proactive steps to rezone the parcel to the appropriate zoning district that allows the density necessary to activate developer interest and private sector investment." According to the LCI, and there was a lot of time spent getting community input in this LCI because I was at all those meetings, and the community came out and they wrote what they wanted on Post-its and stuck it on the wall. The vision is to create a walkable community center consistent with a historic small town with shops on the first level and second, third, or even fourth floor residential. These residents will become customers and patrons of the retail and office service uses located on the first floor. And then it goes on to talk about, what that would look like with some pictures of what could possibly be envisioned. The ultimate takeaway, to circle back to an earlier comment about being forward-looking, we know we have to do something with our land use, and we know we have to do something with our zoning. But that doesn't mean that we have to stop development in the now until we can fix what zoning and land use looks like going forward. And these brokers have been extremely clear with us about what we need to do to get the development that we want to see in the city. They wrote it down. We have the report. At some point, there has to be an acceptance of the fact that if we want to see certain types of development, we have to build what the brokers are telling us to build to get the development in. Does that mean that it's a pretty process? No. Does that mean that we have to do some things ad hoc along the way till we can fix the bigger issues? Probably. But at the end of the day, if we want the development and we want the brokers to build what we told them we want to build, we got to do our part so that they can do their part. Thank you, Mayor. I yield.
All right, the chair recognizes Dr. Rao.
Thank you. I had a couple questions, one for the staff. I wanted to know why, I don't think I've ever seen no recommendation, and any insight on the Planning Commission. And then my third question really has to do with for the council members who were in these meetings. While the LCI study talked about higher density, they envision a multifamily product, and we're looking at for sale, responding to what people around them said they want home ownership around them. Was there any discussion about amenities in this subdivision? Because it's 88 townhomes, that's a lot of people. Did they weigh in on that? Because I think with those numbers, I do think we should look at some kind of amenities package for the people who live in that community. And I just, any insight y'all have on that?
We did talk about amenities. We made sure, I talked to them about a clubhouse, about a park. And then also, one of the concerns that had nothing to do with them is that the community next door has no barriers to keep them separate and to keep the movement, the backdoor movement through these communities. So we talked about a barrier wall and like a different type of fencing that would keep that in. Also, something to pay attention to is that across the street, directly diagonal, is where our public safety complex will. I'll wait.
I'm going to share my screen because people think that I can't read the queue. So let me just put the queue up for everyone to see. We're going in the order.
This was a question
asked
to me.
Yes, go ahead, Councilwoman Pritchett.
So directly diagonal across the street is where our public safety complex is going to go. And there also will be a linear park there. So, of course, them having a park or having a common area for people to meet, like a area that has a gazebo, area has, benches, tables, so people can have, gatherings and that type of thing. We talked about that as well. And another thing that they brought to my attention was their interest in having minority participation from local developers in the city of South Fulton. That's something that they are also very interested in. I don't know if that really fully answers your question, but we're still in the conversations of what should go there, what are the best uses of the project. I don't think that this is something that's set in stone, but I don't speak for them.
So you are looking at some conditions, sounds like around fencing and possibly some, okay.
Yes.
And then I wanted the staff to answer, because like I said, I don't think I've seen that in the past, and I just want to understand.
I was curious about that too.
Yeah.
Thank you for that question, Dr. Rao. We forwarded this case with no recommendation, really based on a couple of different factors. The LCI study, as Council Member Williams-Brown pointed out, was adopted by Council last year. I believe those recommendations were specifically adopted. However, staff has not yet been able to implement those recommendations via actually going in and doing proactive zoning changes. So we don't yet know what those zoning changes will look like, and because this particular parcel was implicated by the Old National LCI, it is possible that there is a future land use change and a future zoning change that would have accommodated a development that this developer wanted to build. Now, we don't know that for sure because we don't know exactly what that would have looked like. The LCI study wasn't exceedingly clear with exactly what should be built on that node. It just said, I think it said higher density residential, and so that would have been something that needed to be fleshed out. So it was really a concession to the developer to say that we're not going to recommend denial because council has adopted the LCI study.
Okay, that's helpful. That's helpful. And did the Planning Commission provide any insight?
Our last Planning Commission meeting was very long, and so I don't remember everything that was specifically said on each case. I think that this case, the reason there was another meeting that was held, I think last week, is because the Planning Commission, because people that came in and spoke against this matter said they wanted to meet again with the developer, and so the Planning Commission, I think, took that into account, as well as some of the complaints about the traffic when they made their recommendation.
Thank you. I will say, I don't know, I've observed a couple meetings, and I do hope we work on providing some additional training for our boards and commissions, specifically relative to zoning. I definitely think there's a need for that, and so, and this is not just specific to this. I've been trying to grapple with the differences between staff and board, and also I don't see them informing us. In other words, coming up with conditions to help us better guide the discussions. I would like to see that. If they're on the Planning Commission, they got to do the work. So that's it. Thank you.
All right, the chair recognizes District 4 Councilman Sebastian.
Sorry, Mr. Mayor. For the general public, the queue reads Councilmember Sebastian, Councilmember Royal, Councilmember Willis. I'm not here to play games. I'm just not here to play games. Okay? So, Mr. Mayor, again, I'm going to ask you, as a duly elected member of District 4, that you respect my position. You having the chair doesn't mean you get to run this meeting the way that you want to run this meeting. And with that being said, Councilmember Willis, Councilmember...
Point of information. Mr. Clerk, have you been having problems with the queue all night?
Yes, with showing it on my screen, yes.
Yes, people are appearing and disappearing from the queue. I'm calling them as they appear in the queue and disappear in the queue. I'm calling them. Councilwoman Willis alerted me that she was having problems getting in the queue, and now she's in the queue. Go ahead, Councilman Sebastian.
Again, Mr. Mayor, the queue reads, regardless of the issues, Sebastian Royal Willis. Okay.
We'll fix it like this. You're the mayor pro tem. You can run the rest of this meeting.
Go ahead. You got it.
All right. Thank you. Thank you for your presentation, sir. Mr. McClendon, I do have a couple of comments about the issue around the no recommendation. If you can please make that clear, because I think it's still presenting some fuzz here as to exactly why we did not get a recommendation from staff. Because if we look at all of these cases here, there are few that have no recommendation from staff and no recommendation from Planning Commission. And I'm saying I haven't seen that before. So it kind of leaves me at a place of uneasiness as to what is happening here. And I do agree with Councilmember Rowe that maybe this is a training issue, because I know your predecessor had some training planned for the board. I know there's been some turnover there. I don't know where we're going with that or what your plans are. But what I'm trying to have us avoid doing is to show up here and have these contentious kind of discussions by council members when staff and Planning Commission at least cannot get aligned, because I think according to the rules and the laws that we're dealing with, yes, you can be different at times, but to have almost every single case here, there's a difference between staff and the Planning Commission. I've just never seen this before. So, tell us what no recommendation is and why both the Planning Commission and you guys can make a no recommendation, because I don't get it.
Well, I'll say generally when the Planning Commission comes up with no recommendation, it's because they can't. It's because when they take their vote, they can't come up with a majority vote. And that's been the case on a few of the different cases. I don't recall how many of them there are tonight. I thought there was just one, but there might be more. For staff, I will say that what you have to remember is that our recommendations aren't based on opinions. That's right. We don't insert any type of opinion into these cases. Our recommendations are based on the adopted and accepted documents, plans, zoning code, comprehensive plan that this council has approved. And so all we do is take the words from those plans and apply them to what's being requested in these cases. And so sometimes if there are conflicts in those plans, if there are conflicts in those codes, sometimes it makes it difficult for us to make a recommendation. So in all fairness to an applicant, such as in this case, instead of us recommending denial, we'll say no recommendation.
Okay. Thank you.
So I think this is causing a little bit of confusion because as long as I've been on council, I've never seen staff not give a recommendation. And not saying that it's something wrong, but I am confused about no recommendation coming from staff because I know recommendations are supposed to be based on our code and our ordinances and our zoning code. I do agree with my colleagues that we do need some training with the planning commission, because these decisions need not to be emotional, but based on the circumstances and the facts. And I do understand the quality of life is emotional, and people care about what goes in their community. Can you please, I apologize, I know you've been up to the mic a lot, Mr. McClendon, but help me understand. I'm reading all of these staff notes because we rely on staff a lot of times when it comes to recommendations. I'm confused.
I'm sorry, is there a
Yes, please help me understand why no recommendation. Like,
well, the future, it doesn't match the current future land use. But they have requested a
I'm
future land
asking
use change.
I just heard some noise, and I'm trying to pay attention.
Right. So so there are a few different issues. The future land use that is currently in place for this parcel is regional live work. So this proposal would not fit into the regional live work future land use. They are proposing a future land use change to suburban 2. If the future land use is changed to suburban 2, then this proposal would fit into suburban 2. And then there's also the matter of the Old National LCI study that has been adopted, but has not yet been implemented as far as the zoning changes that were recommended by that study.
So currently, we don't have a process to change the future land use.
That's another issue, is that we are working on a future land use change process. If you remember at our last council meeting when we made changes to our fee schedule, we actually approved a fee for a future land use change request. So we are currently working on putting that process together so that when someone comes in and they want to request a change to that future land use map, there will be a process for that. There'll be a fee associated with it. And I'll be working with council so that hopefully we can come to an agreement on how we want to move that process forward. But because we don't have that yet implemented and we're still working towards it, that's another issue that we're currently running into.
So is there precedence of changing future land use? I know there's the precedence for changing zoning codes, because that's why we're here. But
there's different cities do it differently, different jurisdictions do it differently. Some jurisdictions, if they change zoning and the zoning does not then match the future land use, they will then come behind that and change the future land use to match the zoning. Some cities, such as our sister city, at City of Atlanta, will have a process where you have to change the future land use prior to changing the zoning, and they have an entire separate process for changing their comprehensive development plan to change the future land use. So it's a process that we're going to have to figure out how we want to do it for the city of South Fulton.
lastly, for the developer, what's the price point? Do you have any idea what the price point is for these townhomes?
Thank you for your question. Yes, I do. Right now, we are targeting the $300,000 to $350,000 range starting, with the average being, of course, $325,000 starting. That's before future buyers choose to add on the bells and whistles that they prefer.
Okay,
it'll increase.
This will be a HOA community?
Yes.
And it will have a clubhouse. What are the amenities? Because I couldn't really tell from the...
Yeah, so we're still working on the amenities. The issue being We have 11 acres with only 88 townhomes. We have to find a balance. We don't want to have just no amenities because that doesn't do anything. It doesn't increase our marketability. But we also can't have amenities that are far too expensive because that only burdens the homeowners who are going to move into this neighborhood. And so we're still working that out a little bit. We're showing a park now as a passive open space. However, we are looking at various options to fill that space with some more active uses. And then I would say we also consider the Tri-County Station connection that this development will make as an amenity. The folks will be able to leave their home, get on the sidewalk, and then go to the various businesses in the Tri-County Station just by walking there. And so we feel that that is a great amenity. The council member mentioned that there's a linear park coming across the street as well that they'll be able to take advantage of.
I consider that a benefit, not an amenity. The only thing that, I support my colleague and whatever she desires and her residents desire for their community. But I will like to recommend that you come up with some type of amenity because, I know we can't have Taj Mahal with just 11 acres, but something, even if we got to look at other communities in metro Atlanta areas, we got some here, with 11 acres, something. And I wouldn't consider Tri-County as an amenity. It's already there. It's a benefit, but not an amenity. Thank you.
Thank you for acknowledging me. I was trying to say this in the nicest way I could, but it's not going to sound nice now. I attended the planning and zoning hearing related to this topic. And what I observed that I believe other council members alluded to a little bit was that I have expressed that our boards do need their training. Without training, my legal background always calls for there has to be a criteria that you use in making the decision to approve or deny, and it has to be a threshold. And from what I observed in many of the cases that were presented to them, that the only criteria was whoever spoke up and said whatever they said. And two of the individuals that spoke up this evening were at that meeting, and a lot of things that they say are anti this type of development across the board and down the line. So when that happens, people think that they're relying on information that's factual when they're relying on other people's opinions. So I do think that it is important for us to recognize that we have to properly train people to be able to make these decisions. Because earlier this year, when I attended our Georgia Municipal Association training in January, the end of January, there was a session that I sat in on with Councilwoman Williams-Brown and Councilwoman Bell, where the state legislators were talking about development projects, and they were talking density, 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 density. They were talking about duplex, triplex, quadruplex. I'm like, what in the world are they talking about? And the conversation and the foundation for what they're saying made sense, but you have to be there to hear it and become educated on these things. And then you go from, we don't want this. We don't want what somebody did 20 years ago when we are in a different situation. So I do look forward to Mr. McClendon and his staff looking for education for our board so that they can make the appropriate recommendations to us based on criteria, thresholds, and training. I yield.
Thank you. Chair recognizes Councilmember Willis for the second time. By the way, Mr. Clerk, I don't have access to the queue.
One last thing, Councilmember Rao, Councilmember Gums, and myself, and even Councilmember Pritchett was not allowed to attend the LCI meeting because it was not advertised. As a matter of fact, some of us showed up and was told to leave. And so that goes back to, yes, we all represent districts, but we have to make decisions. Like, we have to vote. So we have to make decisions for the good of the entire city. And so that's why I said going forward, Ms. Subadan and Clerk Adams, when these type of meetings happen, no council member should be told that they have to leave due to a quorum. So it's just best to go ahead and publicly advertise all meetings. I would never tell one of my colleagues or have a meeting where my colleagues have to make a decision and vote and not give them an opportunity to participate. We had a lunch in a collaborative firm, and Mr. Dallas said that they were going to have this broker meeting, and we all were excited about it. But when it happened, some of us was told to leave because it was not advertised, and we didn't want to violate the quorum. So that's why it's important to make sure, and that's why we have all these questions about the LCI, and because we weren't allowed to participate. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Clerk, that's it? Can we call the next item? Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Yes, next item's number 8, case Z24001, ordinance by the City of South Fulton, Georgia, to rezone properties from M2 zoning district to the C2 zoning district for property located at 4335 Fulton Industrial Boulevard, 4365 Fulton Industrial Boulevard, 4375 Fulton Industrial Boulevard, 4395 Fulton Industrial Boulevard, 4401 and 4403 Fulton Industrial Boulevard, 4455 Fulton Industrial Boulevard, 4430 Frederick Drive, 4346 Fulton Industrial Boulevard, 4340 Fulton Industrial Boulevard, and 4336 Fulton Industrial Boulevard, and to rezone properties from the M2 zoning district to C1 zoning district for properties located at 4245 Shirley Drive and 4255 Shirley Drive. All of these addresses are located in District 1. Staff recommendation is approval. Planning Commission recommendation is approval.
Thank you, Mr. Clerk. These are all parcels that are at I-20 and Fulton Industrial Boulevard in District 1. This is a city-initiated zoning initiated by Councilmember Rowell. These are smaller parcels that are, most of them are adjacent to Fulton Industrial Boulevard. 2 of them are adjacent to Shirley Drive. Again, they're small parcels that are not appropriate for industrial development. They are appropriate for commercial development. Most of them already actually have commercial structures on them and are already being used for commercial purposes. So this is more so a corrective ordinance to ensure that these lots can be used for commercial purposes into the future. Staff recommends approval. Planning Commission recommends approval.
Thank you, Mr. McClendon. I don't have to have access to the queue, so I'm going to start down the line if it's okay with everybody.
We have to open up the public hearing.
Mayor Pro Tem Sebastian, we have to hold the public hearing.
Public hearing?
Yes.
Okay. You have a question, Councilmember Willis? Come on. Yes, I do. Director McClendon, there's a question from Councilmember Willis.
Mayor Pro Tem, you have to open the public hearing because this is a zoning matter.
Okay, thank you. All right, we'll now open the public hearing. This is just a city, so there's no developer, right?
Yes, and
Done your presentation. Can we now go to questions?
We do
have to ask if there's anyone here against.
Correct.
All right. Is there anyone here against the city-initiated zoning?
Did not receive any cards against the zoning. I did receive 2 cards in support of the zoning.
Okay.
Mr. Saeed Ashar and Sarwat Bartul, if you're present, would you please approach the microphone?
Are they here? Okay. No?
I believe you can now close the public hearing.
All right. All right, so we'll now close the public hearing. We'll do that via vote?
No.
Okay, so the public hearing is closed. Then we'll have questions from council.
Yes, no one has signed up in the queue as yet.
Okay. Councilmember, I know Councilmember Willis had said she had a question very early, so Go ahead, and then we'll just come back down the line.
I just wanted to give a little background on this.
You? Okay. All right, thank you. Go ahead.
At the I-20 interchange, as our CDRA director noted, a lot of these parcels already have a commercial use on them. Some of them reverted, even during the pandemic, because they weren't actively being used. And so, as he mentioned, this is to address some of those issues in those businesses who were, honestly, some were businesses that were impacted. And so that this rezoning this a downzoning from heavy industrial to commercial. That's what, of course, if you go to I-20, that's what it's been. And I think it will also support the redevelopment of I-20 and Fulton Industrial. So that's the background.
Thank you. Councilmember Willis.
My question is, we always talk about Fulton Industrial as our industrial corridor that we want. If anybody desires to do warehousing, that we have a corridor for that. By rezoning this, will that prohibit warehousing?
No, it won't. I mean, like he said, these are very small parcels. They tend to be like, some of them already had gas stations on them. Some of them had small restaurants, and the buildings are obsolete, but they don't make sense. You couldn't put a warehouse on them if you wanted to. And so this is really, again, right at I-20, you had McDonald's, you had restaurants and the like there already. So this is not attempting in any way to take away or impede on what's already, larger warehouses. It's not that kind of rezoning.
So the rezoning that currently stands, what was it prohibiting? Like, I guess why are we going through the rezoning process? What was it prohibited? And can I let Mr. McClendon answer that, if you don't mind?
Absolutely. So there were a number of these parcels had restaurants on them, as Dr. Rao mentioned, that closed during the pandemic. And when other users came in and attempted to open up new restaurants on those parcels in those same structures, the staff had to deny them their business license. Okay. Because those were industrially zoned parcels. And so our zoning code didn't allow us to give them a business license for that business. So that's part of the reason why we're having to do this.
Thank you. I have a better understanding now. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Gums, do you have a question? Any comment? Any comment? 5, 6, 7? All right. Thank you, Mr. McClendon. Thank you. Mr. Clerk, call the next item, please.
Next public hearing is number 9. It's case Z24-003. It's an application by Edwina Dixon requesting a rezone from CUP to R2 to develop 3 single-family dwellings at 3260 Enan Road on 4.235 acres located in District 2. Staff recommendation is denial. Planning Commission recommendation is approval.
Thank you. This is case Z24-003, an application by Edwina Dixon requesting a rezoning from community unit plan to R2 single-family dwelling district to develop 3 single-family dwellings at 3260 Enan Road on 4.235 acres. This is in Council District 2. This is a staff recommendation of denial. This is kind of a rare situation where the area is actually in the current zoning and land use is a higher density than what is being proposed. There's a CUP zoning currently on the district on this parcel that I think would allow for up to 8 units to be built. Ms. Dixon wants to build 3 units there, and so based on the current land use, we've recommended denial. However, if council approves this rezoning, we would ask that a condition be placed on the rezoning that the new lots that are approved have a shared driveway, and that's based on Public Works recommendation due to some site distance issues. The Planning Commission recommends approval.
All right, thank you. Mr. Clerk will now open the public hearing.
Yes, sir, Mr. Mayor Pro Tem. We do have the applicant present, Edwina Dixon, as well as Patrice Dixon. We did not receive any comment cards in opposition.
Okay.
Good evening.
We will set the clock.
Mr. Mayor Pro Tem, you can let the applicant know that she has 10 minutes to speak.
Yep. Okay. So you will give her time to finish her conversation. So you have 10 minutes, and we recommend that you don't use all 10 minutes, save some for rebuttal.
Okay,
And
thank
so
you.
the clock starts now.
Appreciate it. As Mr. McClendon mentioned, my application was denied by staff. It was rather confusing because I exceeded what the requirements were. It was somewhat contradictory in that the comprehensive plan indicated that area where my land is located is supposed to be for rural neighborhood, larger lots, larger estate homes. The cup that I currently was zoned was for 9 lots. The minimum acreage is 18,000 square feet per lot. For R2A, which was also part of the recommendation of the staff, R2A was 27,000 square feet. What I am desiring to do, the 2 lots, one is for 45,000 square feet, and the other is for 52,000 square feet, both of which are over an acre each. So I have created less density, which I really think is to the advantage of the community. Enan Road, which is already pretty rural. On Miles Road, which is right across the street from my land, Miles and Enan all the way down, is part of the land, part of the recycle center, and can never be built on. So it's a pretty rural type area. What I'm trying to do is create a higher level market for that area as well. I have owned 3 homes, currently 2 in District 2, 1 in District, well actually 3 in District 2, and 1 in District 1. I've been in the community for over 44 years and have raised my children and grandchildren in this city. I am about trying to assist in upgrading the community, not detracting from it. And I think that all of you are about the same thing. I still do not know why the staff denied it. I did indicate that we would do the shared driveway so that Mr. Valenzuela's concern would be addressed. And he would not have to be concerned about that. It was part of the drawing that I submitted on that day. I still have 6 minutes. And
Just trying to make sure it's still running.
I know. Are you getting bored?
Absolutely not.
Okay. But, so I certainly hope that the council, mayor and council will approve my request. I think falls in line with what is planned in the comprehensive plan. It certainly is something that is going to be helpful to the community. The city is about to erect sidewalks on Enan Road from Vanderveer to near Stonewall Tail, sorry. 8 feet wide on my side of the street and 5 feet wide on the other side, which I think is going to also be an enhancement to the community. We'd like to see maybe golf carts be used on that street, you know, add some advantages for the community. The land is right between the Wolf Creek Country Club subdivision and Wolf Creek Chase subdivision. Most of those are, it was part of the CUP. I don't know if you received the information that I submitted. If you notice, the CUP was the land that I bought was part of the Wolf Creek Country Club subdivision, but for some reason was not developed. I bought it, but I did not buy it to develop it into 9 homes. So that's all that I have. Any questions? Or shall I leave my time for later?
Yes, ma'am. If you would just reserve the balance of your time, you still have 4 minutes and 30 seconds on the clock. We're going to hear from speakers in opposition, and then you will be able to come back and give a rebuttal.
Yeah, there were no speakers in opposition, but Patrice Dixon did submit a card. Did you? Okay. Did you want to speak? Okay. That completes the speakers that I have received.
All right. Hearing none in support or opposition, are you okay with giving up the balance of your time? We're just going to open it up for questions now. All right. I'll go ahead and close the public hearing. And I will entertain any questions. I will start, as is our process, with the district representative. The chair recognizes Councilwoman Gomes.
I don't have any questions. I do know that Ms. Dixon has been going through this process, I think, ever since I've gotten on council in 2017, trying to figure out what to do with that land. And it's good to see some things coming to fruition, and your home is absolutely beautiful. What this says is that definitely there is room for us to make some, again, adjustments to the comprehensive plan, the future land use plan. But after, consulting with, Attorney Hyman, not Attorney Hyman, which attorney is that? Attorney McClendon. I definitely think that there's room for us, but again, I am supportive of this. I think Ms. Dixon has done her homework, and I do think that there's some things that we need to do on our end as the city. So I do hope that my colleagues will be able to support this, and then we make some modifications moving forward.
All right. Any other comments? Questions, concerns, queries? All right, thank you, Ms. Dixon. We will be voting on this on April 23rd. Mr. Clerk, please sound the next item.
That brings us to item 10 on the printed agenda, case Z24-004, application by Stephen Lytle, requesting a rezoning from AG1 to C1 to operate a daycare and/or other commercial uses at 2350 Beda Road, located in District 7. Staff recommendation is approval. Planning Commission recommendation is denial.
Thank you, Mr. Clerk. This is case Z24-004. It's a request to rezone from AG1 to C1 to operate a daycare center or other commercial use at 2350 Beda Road. This is in Council District 7. I believe that the applicants, while their intention might have been initially to operate a daycare center, at this point, at least that's what's stated at the Planning Commission meeting, I think their their intent is to market this property as a commercial use without a particular specific use. So I do want to make sure that we make that point because it says daycare center here. So I think they'll let you know about that. Council's staff's recommendation is approval. Planning Commission recommendation is denial.
All right, I'll go ahead and open it up for a public hearing. Is the applicant or any of their designees here?
Yes, good evening, Mr. Mayor. Marvin Arrington on behalf of the applicant. Good evening, council members, everyone. Thank you. Yes, this is currently zoned agricultural, and they are requesting to make it C1. It has not operated as a daycare since 2020, so in 4 years. And we believe that this is the highest and best use of this land. Again, it's currently designated as agricultural. The staff has said that it fits with the land use plan, the future land use plan. And I believe that also have Mr. Martin here, and I believe he has a PowerPoint that he will walk you all through, but we certainly want to ask the board, the council, to approve the change from agricultural to C1. There are actually 2 lots, and so staff recommendation was approval conditioned on the lots being combined, and so we're fine with that condition. And with that, I'll let Mr. Martin say his word, and then I do have, I guess, our constitutional letter as well that we'll give to Mr. Adams. Thank you.
Evening, everybody. I'll try and be brief. As Attorney Arrington noted, the parcel at hand is 2350
Excuse me,
Bethsaida Road.
please state your name as well.
Oh, I'm sorry. It's Benjamin Martin, and I'm here on behalf of NRD LLC. And as Attorney Arrington stated, we are requesting approval to change the current zoning of the 2 adjoining parcels from AG1 to C1. And as he mentioned, we are no longer requesting a special use permit. Originally, we had a lot of interest from either specifically daycares or assisted living facilities. So our initial permit application noted a special use. The city staff basically told us that if we just went down the direct C1 path, that those uses would also be covered under the general path. The original structure was 6,800 square feet, and that's what you're currently looking at. It was built in 1960. There were 2 additional structures built in 1978, one with 2,637 square feet and one with 1,150 square feet. For most of existence, the property has been operated as Chestnut Hills Academy, and it was a licensed early learning facility. Unfortunately, in 2020, the pandemic hit, and the property has since been vacant. This is a survey, and the 2 things to note on this are, one, that if you see the actual improvements appear to be straddling the 2 property lines, we are actually 100% in agreement with the staff's basically condition that the 2 parcels be joined before the approval of any business license. We think it makes nothing but sense, but until we actually had any zoning approved, we didn't want to make that change. Also, if you see if you go back for 1 sec on that survey, if you'll note, there is a creek running through, creek/floodplain running through the middle to back portion of the property, which would make any sort of large residential development difficult, and on the commercial side lends itself to doing something akin to what's already there, a structure towards the front of the property. The property's been on the market since June of 2022. It's been shown to multiple buyers, and many, if not most, have stated that for their uses, they would consider C1 to be a necessity and not an option. We think that the C1 zoning will provide the highest and best use for the parcels and will probably maximize value and taxes for the city and county as well. Currently, you've got former zoning was AG1, which was basically next to a C1 parcel, and also the parcel sits adjacent to a small Georgia Power substation. Looking forward, it is in the live-work zoning, which commercial is allowed under that zoning. We had a public meeting via Zoom. We had 6 attendees. The 2 major concerns were, one, what is the potential business that's going to do? The property is now under contract to an LLC who's a sole member parent organization. It's a nonprofit corporation. And the intended use of the property is for use by their local nonprofit social advocacy group as office space and as a space for trainings and/or education seminars. The other main consideration / concern was the difference between asking for C1 versus C1 with a special use. As I mentioned, given that basically any intended use would be covered under C1, it appeared that asking for a special use was unnecessary. With that, I want to thank you again to Mayor and the Council for your consideration and your time. We will bank the rest of our time.
All right, are there any speakers in opposition?
Mr. Mayor, actually, we received several cards in support. Ms. Kamika King, Courier Benjamin Martin, and we have Antoni Michelle Williams. They submitted cards in support, and then we have 2 in opposition.
All right. Did the speakers in support want to speak now? Or there's 4 minutes and 33 seconds. You can bank that for rebuttal, or you can come forward now.
I'm Tony Michelle Williams. I'm in support of the property as with one of the current buyers in process, and I will yield my time and just
All right. Anyone else? Already. Going 3 times. All right. Will you read the cards of the speakers in opposition? As you all approach, please state your name, your address, and you will have 10 minutes. You may want to share that time. Just be cognizant there are 2 of you that are sharing that 10 minutes? 10 minutes.
Speakers in opposition are Mr. Alvin Reynolds and Michael Venable. You would please approach the microphone.
Once again, Alvin Reynolds, 585 Kings Place, Riverdale, Georgia. 30296, I reside in District 7. Again, this is another development that's not far from my home. Let me just state that I was a planner on the Planning Commission for 3 years of this city's existence as a commissioner and as chair. My background is in planning, in zoning, development and redevelopment. So that means that I know a little something about what I'm talking about. When I talk to the community, the 15,000 that resides in District 7 and other parts of this city, we have to differentiate facts and opinion. And I bring facts to the table. I let people know how zoning works. I let people know that your opinions don't really go over well when you're presenting things to council. Someone has to be objective about these cases and these developments for what people aren't saying and what people don't see. I have to ask the question, why do we have a land use plan? Why do we have a comprehensive plan? Why? Why was it developed? So that we would not lose millions of dollars. And when we have those plans, why aren't we using them? We're just throwing it around as we willy-nilly and so forth. We have to have standards. We have to stand for something. I wanted to make that point because when people sit on this council and criticize the community, and the community cannot say anything to council, that's not right. The citizens have been taken out from speaking so much, even in planning, even at the council meetings, that is ridiculous. So we want respect from the council as well as you want respect from the community. This case, if anybody has or know about planning, you're to go to these sites. Look at these sites, see what's around them, see what they're all about, so that you can come with factual information. When this particular case came up, and I was on that Zoom call along with 5 other people, it was presented to us one way in literature that was sent out, but when we got on the call, it was presented another red flag. Sure, you can clean it up, say what you want to say about how you want to do things, that's fine. But here's the problem with that development. They spoke of the power station, but he didn't speak about it in length. That power station sits right next to this development. Power lines run across this development on both sides of the street. That's challenging. That's a hazard. I knew the owner of that daycare, and that was even a concern of theirs. The best use for this property here is green space. That's the best use for it. We have to stop to think, why are we trying to place every little thing that we can on vacant land? We're killing our environment. And to have something to come in there that you didn't know, you didn't get any heads up about what type of facility or company or whatever was going to occupy that facility, people had questions. They had questions. But the main thing here, you got to look at this power line, these power stations, where this development is. That whole area right there is a challenging area to be built on, to even be operated on. The best use for this area here, and we have been pushing for this for many, many years, to make that green space. And I'm telling you now, that's a problem over there. Wetland, power stations, and you want to occupy it with something, whatever, not just that across the street. Power stations, power lines. Can't say it enough. But once again, respect the community. Thank you.
It's Michael Venable, 5720 Montelli Circle. I'll do my quick public service announcement. I hope that all residents will continue to come out and speak at all these meetings. If I come out and make some statements in Planning Commission and come here and make the exact same statements in council meeting, I'm posturing. Wow, this is beyond belief. Let's go to the second part. You know, when you brought up, said we had a case and there was no recommendation, everybody thought that was wild. Look at this case. When have you seen somebody request a rezoning, but they don't have any pictures? They don't have any plans? They will come up here right now and say, oh, okay, yeah, we got somebody in here. But listen to the excuse. I need this to rezone so I can market and sell the property. The municipality does not do stuff like that. Not to help you make money like this on the backs of you wanting to do something. This relates exactly back to the other case. If I could get Ms. Gray, if you could bring up this picture, I had to do that. This is a picture in front of the parcel. It is heading toward Old National. You don't even see it. This is so far away from the corridor for you to put a commercial zoning this far off the corridor.
I don't care what you're talking about you want to do. That could be a store. That could be anything in commercial in there. Way too far with it. But now we pop back and said, okay, I want to do, office space. Then why are we not zoning this office and institutional? Know why? We want to put it to a location to where I can make some big money because it's got a name to it. Only reason this applicant wants to go to C1 is so he can make big money. It is not this city's responsibility to put an entity in place to help somebody make $1. Overview, you have overzoned this property. There is no reason whatsoever it needs to be C1. It was formerly a school. You do those in the community. If I was able to flash forward in there, you would pass so many different large areas of homes in that area. This is way improper. Are you against what they're doing? No. You have improperly done it. You should have waited until you had someone that wanted to buy the property specifically, then you come back and ask for your zoning. Not getting you something that, I can make big money if I do C1. That's not how this should work. From that case, this should not be approved as a C1. If what they're wanting to do is have office space, then it should be redone to an O&I, because that would keep it in line with your progression from commercial on the corridor to low density O&I to the residential area with the large lots. Thank you.
All right. There is a balance of 4 minutes on the time.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'll just say briefly, and I don't know if what Ben has to say, I'll leave him a couple of minutes as well, but property owners are entitled to do with their property as they will. And I would submit that the denial of this rezoning application would be a taking of their property and a violation of their constitutional rights under the state of Georgia, the Constitution of the state of Georgia, the United States, including the First and 14th Amendments. No one can take your property without due process of law. And you should not be deprived of your property. And it's currently zoned agricultural. Well, I think we all know that agricultural, there's a lot of land in the city of South Fulton that is zoned agricultural that I'm sure you all are already considering as you're talking about your future land use plans. And so I don't believe that agricultural is right, and I believe that C1 is right. They have a buyer. We believe, again, that this is the highest and best use of this land. We would just, again, ask the council to accept the recommendation, and I'll give Mr. Adams copies of our constitutional allegation.
The only thing I wanted to reiterate was just that we are not contemplating a new development. This is an existing structure, and it's the vast majority of any intended uses would fall under either a commercial or office designation, with commercial giving rise to the highest and best use. Thank you.
All right. I'm going to close the public hearing and go first to the district representative, Councilwoman Pritchett.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, again for recognizing me. Mr. McClendon, if you can come forward, please. So, in looking at where the property is situated on a map, I just want to make sure that we're clear as to what is where. So what has not been said is that at the corner of Old National and Beda Road is a Shell gas station.
A CVS,
And across the street from that is CVS,
space shop storage.
a storage place next to the CVS, a diagonal from this personal, what used to be a personal care home, or that's what it says here online. It's newborn learning. It's another daycare. So here's my question to you, Mr. McClendon. A few questions. So the zoning here in this instance is a carryover from Fulton County, because if it was actually agricultural, then the structure that's there that was built in the 60s, maybe before I was born, and then the structure that was placed on it and operated as a daycare or personal care would not have been able to operate in that manner if it was just agricultural. Am I correct?
Potentially, of course, other types of uses can operate in agricultural zoning districts. So depending on what the use of that structure was, and I'm not sure what the use was, it could have been operating, it could have been a business operating in an AG1 zoning district.
So in one of these classes that I have taken with GMA and NLC, isn't it true that AG1 in many instances is the placeholder designation for land, because if nothing else is there, everything starts out AG1 and then you zone it for what the proper or the intended use will be?
AG1 is generally the default zoning designation. I shouldn't say AG1, I should say agricultural is generally going to be your default zoning designation for when you start your zoning code, or when cities started their zoning codes back in the early 1900s. And then as the cities developed and created zoning codes, then they would have given them different zoning designations. So it's possible that this site has always been zoned agricultural and never had any other zoning designation.
And so here it shows that, again, the Planning Commission denied it. Do you know of the criteria that they used to formulate their denial?
I think it was because there was not a particular use that was being projected for the site. Even though the initial request stated that they wanted to have a daycare center, at the Planning Commission meeting, the applicant came up and said that they were just going to market the site as a general commercial area in our general commercial site. And so I think that the Planning Commission, from my recollection, wanted to know what that site was specifically going to be. And because they didn't get that answer, they recommended denial.
Okay. So thank you, Mr. McClendon. For the record, there's a CVS, a Shell gas station, a storage place.
Space shop storage.
Yeah, storage place. And then at the end corner, it's it goes into Clayton County, and then there's a church there. So on this side of the street or in this vicinity, there's a lot of commercial already there. So it's just to make sure that people understand no one is taking or trying to use land that was ever residential, that was ever really agricultural, and they just want to allow who's purchasing it or who's constructing on it to have the proper designation, from what I see. And I yield.
All right, the chair recognizes District 3 Councilwoman Willis.
Well, I just want to clear up some things, because I don't like when anyone is prohibited to talk. That's including council members or residents. So the notion that we are trying to keep residents from voicing their concerns and opinions, that's not true. A resident can come and offer public comments for anything that's on the agenda. And when, as it relates to zoning cases, you are allowed to speak in public comments during the planning commission meeting, and you're allowed to speak in public comments now. So the residents are not showing up to speak against certain items. And in this case, the staff recommended approval with conditions. Our comprehensive development plan and zoning ordinance, they are there to guide us. But there are exceptions to every rule. But in this case, the staff did recommend approval with conditions. Green space is coming to the area in District 7. It was approved unanimously by this council. So we're not taking away green space. As a matter of fact, it's not only green space, it's going to be a passive park. The developer talked about there were 7 people on the Zoom meeting. And of the 7, only 2 have shown up to speak against this development. So again, I will support my colleague and her residents in their decision as it relates to the zoning. And I will encourage residents that, to continue to engage and speak up. Closed mouths don't get fed. And if your mouth is closed, then the decisions are left to the council members and specifically the person who represents the district. Thank you, I yield.
The chair recognizes District 1, Councilwoman Rao. All right, the chair recognizes Councilwoman Williams-Brown.
Thank you, Mayor. I actually just had I wanted to clarify something with Attorney McClendon because Councilwoman Pritchett and I have been going back and forth about where this sits, because one side of the road is 7 and one side of the road is 6. So I wanted to confirm that this is on the side of the road that's 7.
From my understanding, this is 7. That's what our GIS system says.
Says that, okay.
So, this is a site that I think might be the only site that I have actually visited. For some reason, I think I was at economic development, so I was on this side of town. So I said I wanted to go see this site because we couldn't tell how the buildings were situated.
Right, and I think Councilwoman Pritchett and I did the same because we've just been trying to make sure that we knew what we were doing and what we were looking at.
Right, and so I know where it is, and our GIS says that it's in 7, and so my understanding is that it's in 7.
That is in 7. Okay, thank you.
Just to further amplify that point, I was the previous District 6 councilperson, and Dr. Baker was the previous District 7 councilperson. We had this same confusion. When you make that left on Camp Valley Road, everything on the left is District 6, and then everything on the right or south of Camp Valley is District 7. Yeah. Cool. All right. Thank you. Mr. Clerk, please sound the next item.
Yes, sir. Mr. Mayor and Council, that brings us to item 11 on the printed agenda, KZ 24-005. It's application by Teresa Opara requesting a rezoning from R3 zoning district to O&I zoning district at 6775 Old National Highway to develop an adult daycare. It's located in District 6. Staff recommendation is denial. Planning Commission recommendation is approval.
All right, thank you, Mr. Clerk. This is All right, we're getting there, everybody. I do want to remind council that we missed our February Planning Commission meeting. We had to pack all of these cases into March, and so that's why we are here today. And luckily, we didn't have to do the short-term rentals, or we would have another 6 or 7 cases. So I know this is long, but we're almost there. Case Z24005, application by Teresa Opara requesting a rezoning from R3 to office and institutional Old National Highway overlay at 6775 Old National Highway to develop an adult day center. This is in Council District 6. Staff recommendation is denial. Planning Commission recommendation is approval. This is on 2.5 acres of land. Staff's recommendation is based on the future land use map. The future land use designation for the property is, I believe, agricultural neighborhood. This is on Old National Highway. Most of the future land use adjacent to Old National Highway is regional live work. This is one of the very few parcels that does not have that future land use designation for some reason, but that is the basis of staff's recommendation.
All right, I'm going to go ahead and open a public hearing. Mr. Clerk, do you have any speakers for or against?
Yes, I believe the applicant, Ms. Teresa Opara, is available. We also have a Brian Fullwood, who's in support of the application, and Mr. Michael Venable is in opposition. So 1 in opposition, 2 in support.
All right, young lady, if you just state your name and your address, I think you probably got the gist of how this goes now.
Sure. My name is Teresa Opara. Greetings and good evening to Mayor and Council members. I hope we're all doing well today. Okay, this property I purchased almost 10 years ago, and I have the intention to use it as adult daycare center. So the time I purchased it, following a year after, I went to South Fulton and had a meeting. They scheduled 2 meetings. The first meeting I had, I presented my case to them with their planner, the architectural designs were presented, and then they scheduled me for a meeting with the fire department services. And Vance, Mr. Vance was the man at the time in the South Fulton office. He was in charge of planning and development. And during that meeting, they gave me 7 things that they wanted me to do. And one of them was that I do not extend the usage for what the building. At the time I purchased it, I have 3 structures. One was a big storage facility, but then they have like 2 buildings. The 1,700 square building was at the back, plus the 3-bedroom, 1,850 square foot in the front. So as he mentioned, Mr. McClendon, Attorney McClendon, is 2 buildings. That was, the time I purchased it, and nothing has been done since then. As you all know, we had a COVID, and during the COVID season, who was talking about adult daycare? The majority of people that were dying at the time were people of my age. I'm in my 60s, so nobody mentioned the adult daycare center at that time. So all my plans were suspended. And needless to say, I started having so much problem with vagrants, people dumping shingles, and I went to police department a couple of times, and they got tired of it, and they recommended that I fence the property. So right after COVID again, I'm a nurse practitioner by profession. I've been in nursing 40 years, and the largest daycare in the state of Georgia, I was their director, Benson Center in Sandy Spring. And with my personal lifestyle, with my family background, and with my professional background, and some of the incidents that have happened in my life, I proceeded to do this adult daycare center. I invested so much in it. I've sold 2 of my properties to keep it going. One time I boarded it, waiting for all these staff members in South Fulton. I have had 5 groups. I started with Vance. One time I came back again, I started with McGregor. And 3rd time I started with Pat Wanda. And by the time I come, they give me a meeting. When I come back, they already left. And then series and series of people. The last one was Karen Tomini. And she's the one that had made things happen for me, with the staff under her. So what I'm saying in effect is that if we look at the last time we have the meeting, and this AG1 is always presenting, from 2018, when I went into this South Fulton first, I was told to zone it from R3 to C1 for the personal care home and adult day center. The personal care home in the front, adult daycare center at the back. And by the way, I'm looking because the next person is going to talk for 3 minutes, so I'm trying to curtail my time. But I wanted to give you the facts because I don't have all these lawyer and legal things to show you the maps and all this and all that. But my case, just like council member Pritchett was talking about. I know where Bethesda is, and CVS is there, and I'm thinking the part of the denial by the staff was because they put there that there was a single family home where there has been a prime learning center for more than 15 years, almost 20 years. So there's nothing single family home where I'm doing this adult day center. There's prime learning center, there's entrance to Tonwood, and there's my property there. And so I don't know where the denial came from, but I was thinking that maybe because whatever they cut and pasted, and I have due respect for what they're doing, I'm not a planning specialist, I'm a nurse. So, but there's no single family home like they put in the last meeting. There's no single family home, it's a commercial property next to mine. And it's the same, maybe less than 2 blocks. We are talking about the storage, the CVS, the gas station, and down the street there on the right side is my property. And so I don't know what the issue is because everything they've told me I've done. It cost me $24,000 to put the fence. I have spent about $250,000 to help the building, the back. The tree cutting alone is about $30,000. And the subdivision knew about it. I have gone to the meetings. Everything they've told me to do, I have done. And I have never had any strict opposition, except when I came to that meeting, I saw that staff denial. And I was glad the commissioners that were there, they approved of me. I think you were there too. Thank you very much. Thank you. So I don't know what the issue is, and because I'm seeing everything from a business point of view. I've heard all the presentations that were here. I think I'm bringing business. I mean, we know what the baby boomers are doing in America, and all of us here, I don't see any 30-year-old and 20-year-old here. So maybe in the future, you all will be coming to this daycare center, because I'm going to really make it. I mean, I don't know I'm sorry, I don't know what to say, but it's going to be a big place, And by the way, I forgot to tell you all, Bowden Center in East Point, I opened. I forgot to say it last time. The Bowden Center behind the post office in East Point, me and one of the mayors, or Commissioner Campbell, we cut the ribbon. I ran that one. So I'm bringing business. I'm hearing all this congestion. I'm providing business. Wouldn't it be good if you all let me do this so that you all can see how good things can be in South Fulton? Thank you all so much, and I hope you all have me in consideration positively. I appreciate you all. Thank you.
All right, there was another speaker in support.
Yes.
Come on down, sir.
Mr. Brian Fullwood.
I don't know how you're going to top that, but go. You've got 3 minutes and 26 seconds.
I just want to say thank you for having me. I'm the president of the HOA in Thornton Woods. I've met you before, and I've met a couple of other council members. Excuse my voice, I'm a little hoarse. Where this wants to sit is right at the forefront of our subdivision. She's come to the meetings, and our community or our subdivision is mainly 80% seniors. She's giving them an outlet. We need her because our seniors, we don't want them to become sedentary or, just not have anything to do. She's giving them an out. As far as the zoning, there's a commercial business on either side of her. I don't know why her parcel is not zoned for business. But again, we need her in our community, and it's better than a liquor store, a convenience store, a gas station. This is something for our seniors to get out and continue to be a part of our community. Thank you.
All right, there is a minute and 54 seconds left for rebuttal. We'll hear from the speaker in opposition. You can come on down, Mr. Venable.
Venable, 5720 Montelli Circle. If you look at the card, that was a no comment one on there. I'm going to do the same thing that staff does in here. My point is we forget about how to improve this corridor. My point is even with comp plan, land use zoning, I am publicly stating, because I did this when we were under the jurisdiction of Fulton County, that the property needs to come into compliance with the old national overlay. There are standards here that everybody forgets about. But then when they come back, oh, it looks bad, it's in here and whatever. There's just some things. She's doing a good job so far. I'm not giving any things for it. The most glaring thing was the chain link fence that was put up. That is a violation of the old national highway overlay. And she said, okay, I'll probably take that down. But I'm just making that public here. This is something that we should be cognizant about on every single solitary zoning that comes on this corridor. There are standards. We talk about standards, but we don't say or do anything about it. And that is my comment, is to make sure that comes into compliance. Now, the zoning, I understand what staff is saying. I'm just going to sit back and look in the cut, because I've seen all these cases. Staff says deny. Council says, well, no, shouldn't deny. Planning says deny, says no. Planning says approval. Oh, it shouldn't be in there. Staff says approval. We're all over the place here. So that's a whole thing. We as a city have got to get ourselves together. Not in opposition of the application here, but I am a firm believer that if that becomes zoned O&I, that property needs to come into compliance with the conditions of the old national overlay.
Thank you. You did have 3 minutes and 26 seconds. You don't have to use them if you don't want to. Do you have anything else?
I did talk to the Taunton Wood subdivision HOA president, because I really wanted to meet this gentleman to do whatever the fencing. The fencing wasn't put there as a pleasure. The fencing was put there because they were dumping shingles. One time they took off the roof of the house in the front building. And then when I went to the police the second time, they said, we can't control the migrants, because there was a bus, motor station just maybe 2 yards from there. And so it wasn't like I'm looking for money. I haven't gotten any positive cash flow for 10 years I've invested in this property. So it's not like I just put up a fence there. There has never been any use. I haven't violated any rules. And I'm ready to take his number to see if there's a difference how the fence will be. Because next to my property is the same fence. If any of you walk over there, go there and see the next commercial building. It has the same chain link fence. But I'm willing to do whatever will be pleasing to the community. I'm not here to destroy anything. So if he can give me his number, and me and him can look at what other fence I can do. I take off the fence and put whatever needs to be put. He keeps saying he's not in opposition, but he was one of those that spoke in the last meeting. If you're not in opposition, then support the thing so that we will go home and have some good dinner. And if you're not in opposition, you're not in opposition. I'm ready to take his number and put the fence down and do whatever meets the corridor, because I live in Fayette County, but I don't live far away from that. And my idea of going to the subdivision meeting is to talk to them, because I have owned about 11 properties Okay? So none of, the last one was sold February 26th, because I'm getting old. I'm in my late 60s. I'm getting old like everybody else. So I don't go into the community to destroy. I have never been known for that. I have no reason going into the homeowner association meeting. I'm annexed. I'm not part of the homeowner association. But I do that for them to know this is what I'm planning to do. And they're having another meeting on the 18th, and I'm going there. Thank you all.
All right, thank you, Ms. Apar. I'm going to go ahead and close this public hearing. I don't know what kind of rays shot out of the sun yesterday. There was something happening astrologically. As is the case, I'm going to open these questions with the district representative, Councilwoman Williams-Brown.
Thank you, Mayor. As has been stated, the property in question has been vacant for some time. It was a residential house that sits fairly back from the road from Old National. Oh, is that better? Maybe, sorta, kinda.
Yes.
Okay. It sits a good piece. I'm gonna say piece of ways back from Old National, so that you actually have to turn into Thornton Woods and then make a U-turn to get to the property. And I think the questions that I have are potentially for the HOA president, because tonight, as well as at the Planning Commission meeting, I kept hearing about seniors having something to do, which I find curious because I have senior programming at Creel Park. So I'd just like to get a sense of how many of the seniors living in Thornton Woods are currently taking advantage of the programming being provided.
Well, most are not mobile, so to speak, whereas they'll get in their car and go around the Creel Park. I'll say just because of some of the things that go on at Creel Park, they don't feel safe. They feel safe in our community.